While E3 2021 didn't fully deliver on its expectations in offering a week-long celebration of games, it was arguably indie games that benefited from E3 going totally digital, and this was one of the best E3 in years with multiple great-looking indie game reveals and announcements. In this video, we list and heap honour and praise upon the top 30 indie reveals from E3 2021. First up, and in no particular order, we got to see the full reveal of Somerville, which we've known about for a little while now, although this is the first time the team behind it have shown off a decent chunk of gameplay footage. Remember, if you will, this comes from one of the co-founders of Playdate, and from its look and feel, Somerville feels like it's shaping up to follow in the footsteps of the likes of Limbo and Inside. In truth, well, this reveal was one of our highlights of the whole of this year's E3. Up next, and at number 29, Inscryption was one of the most interesting and all-round fascinating things we saw at the Devolver Digital Not E3 showcase. It's under development by the folks who made Pony Island, and while on the face of things it looks just like a generic deck builder, that's not the case, as the card aspects of the game are just part of something much wider. Developer Daniel Mullins has also pointed out via the game's Steam homepage, this game will contain strange and weird aspects, particularly within its horror sections. After all, this is coming from Daniel Mullins, so we're very much down with all of this.
Ahoy, sailors!
At number 28, Trash Sailors was another surprise showing from the two-part Guerrilla Collective showcase. Of all of the co-op games shown this past E3, now this one was the one that grabbed our attention the most, not just in how fun and joyfully addictive the gameplay looks, but also in how it looks overall with its playful and colourful hand-drawn art style. And at number 27, and one of those just one more thing reveals, Immortality is the latest game from Sam Barlow, who happens to be one of our favourite developers whose previous work includes Her Story and Telling Lies. This new game tells the story of Marissa Marcel, an actress who starred in 3 unreleased films before disappearing. There's a delightful if somewhat ominous premise here, with Barlow recently noting he's been looking to create a kind of horror that exists on the periphery of your vision, one that when injected into your brain isn't easily flushed out when you turn off the screen. Now, we often struggle to enjoy horror games, and this one, well, it might be one heck of a tough play, although given Barlow's credentials, Immortality is one to wishlist today.
My name is Marissa Marcel. I'm 17 years old, and it's my dream to be an actress.
Making its world premiere at the Future Game Show, our number 26, Serial Cleaners, is the sequel to Serial Cleaner, which has sold more than 1 million copies. Unlike the first game, this follow-up sees you play as one of 4 different cleaners, each having their own skills to better clean up and tidy away the blood and all-round evidence. The isometric, stealthy aspects look pretty darn cool, as does the action overall, which appears tense and pretty frantic. From something so very fast and frantic to something far more relaxing. At number 25, Cat Café Manager looks so perfectly chill. As the name suggests, this game gives you the opportunity to design and run your own cat cafe. You'll be able to look after and take care of your customers while adding to your collection of cats, all wrapped up within a story that sounds fairly whimsical, involving an ancient cat shrine. Cat Café Manager, well, it looks like an adorable escape. Up now, and at number 24, UnMetal brought a few wry smiles to the team as we sat back and watched the Guerrilla Collective showcase. I mean, just look at it. Having also played the demo, which is available on Steam today as this video airs, it plays out like every bit the classic game it's looking to pay tribute to, or perhaps parody. The more we see of Dordogne, the more we want to see of it, and this new trailer further intensifies this loop and general excitement about this watercolour-inspired narrative adventure. The game is set to flip between the past and the present, with you playing as a lady called Mimi, today age 32, and yourself back when age 10 as you explore her memories and her adventures of spending summer in the Dordogne with your grandmother. Having been lucky enough to have spent many long summers likewise in this part of the south of France, this game puts us in mind of those balmy evenings swimming in the river and camping under the stars. To us, Dordogne is looking quite exquisite. At number 22, and while not shown off at the show, the developer behind The Last Night tweeted this looping footage and confirmed the game is still under development, that it's still pixel art, and that it's coming to next generation consoles. And speaking of The Last Night, at first glance we thought this footage of Replaced was in fact the latter, with them looking fairly similar. In any case, this graphically looks incredible, as does the combat, with its shooting and melee elements, not to mention what also looks to be some decently solid looking platforming. We're thinking Replace might be one of those sleeper hits from this year's E3, with it finding traction across smaller boutique sites like ours, alongside some of the industry heavy hitters. Moving on, and at number 20, Firegirl stood out amongst the many other pixel art games at this year's E3. We can't say we've seen something like this before. With its firefighting gameplay, where you're able to set out and take on evil fires, all the while using your hose as a jetpack and doing a bit of people rescuing here and there. It looks and feels like something that might raise the blood pressure a little bit, although we are really looking forward to seeing where this one goes when it comes out, which at the moment should be around the Q4 of this year. Yet another surprise announcement, and one that saw our collective jaws drop to the floor, came from Far Changing Tides, the follow-up to Far Lone Sails. Unlike the land-based craft from the first game, in this one players will pilot a boat and sail across and underneath a flooded world full of mystery. The first game was a stunning gem of a title, and this sequel looks to follow in its footsteps, with we think it looking to deliver a contemplative, heartfelt adventure. Up next, at number 18, and another game from the Devolver Showcase. Trek to Yomi comes billed as a stoic tale of a young swordsman, and what draws us to this comes from its visual art style. It looks like one of those classic samurai movies we see popping up onto our TV every once in a while. We understand this is fairly on within the development, although the visuals with its use of light and shadow, together with some brutal looking combat, makes this one another game we can't wait to see more from. Coming next, and at number 17, the E3 just gone saw a brand new, never before played demo of Tunic, a game first announced back at E3 in 2018. Having played this a number of times over the years, including the latest demo, we're still really excited about this plucky little fox and to take part in its wider adventure. One thing though, the demo makes things fairly clear this game will be no pushover. We suspect this vibrant and colourful world will offer a stern challenge when it pops out, we hope, at some point in the year ahead. At number 16, and we think one for the speedrunners, Demon Turf is a 3D platformer within a 2D art format that looks somewhat garish and yet fairly unique. Demon Turf should be out later in the year on PC and all of the usual consoles. At number 15, and the halfway point for this E3 2021 indie game rundown, Hoa was one of the 75 or so games from within the Wholesome Direct and should be coming out this August 21st. It looks to be another of those deeply relaxing games that blends a calming musical score with what seems like a hand-painted artwork. All that being said, having spent a little more time looking over the footage, we're thinking Hoa might offer up a tougher challenge in some places than might have been expected. At number 14, and another game in this rundown we've had our eyes on for several years, we have Death Trash. Not only does its pixel art look so darn good, having played the brand new demo over the last few days, it plays out as good as it looks. It really does offer a decent and competent twin-stick shooter that feels like a tough and gritty play that's full of visceral, if pixelated violence. Death Trash is coming out in early access August the 8th. At number 13, White Shadows grabbed our attention, mostly due to its black and white stylings, which we don't mind at all, although others have said to us it might look a little too cliched, when it's also coupled with its aim of telling a fable, with the developers having called it something like a mix between 1984 by way of Tim Burton. There's definitely a hint of stop-motion animation, which again is a plus point, with White Shadows expected out later in the year. From something that hints at offering stop-motion animation to something that dives all into that kind of art style. Vokabulantis was one of the highlights of the Day of the Devs presentation, which came straight after Jeff Keighley's Summer Games Festival kickoff show. Now this one is a long way out, with it not expected until 2024, with it currently under development by a team of 6. The developers have noted it takes inspiration from the likes of Unravel and the Little Nightmares series, with it based on a 2-player co-op. That said, players will be able to shift between the 2 characters, a boy and a girl, to give the option of a single-player playthrough. This looks mind-blowingly good, and if we mentioned earlier, not due to land for a good number of years. At number 11, and from the wholesome direct, Woodo is one of the few games in this list we didn't know anything about before the start of this year's E3. It looks truly stunning, and appears to be a clever puzzle game about placing wooden objects within various scenes, and in so doing, they come to life and offer up some really rather cute-looking animations. This, as we said already, was a total surprise, and from what we've seen of it so far, it looks delightful. Onwards and into the last 10 games of this E3 2021 Indie Game Rundown. The Wandering Village is headed to Steam's Early Access later this year. Now this one's a city builder that takes place on the back of a giant creature, with the game tasking you to create a symbiotic relationship with the animal. It's a cool looking premise, and we can't wait to find out how this plays when it drops later in the year. At number 9, and something, while we often say it, that really does fit into the description of something that's totally unique. Despelote is super intriguing, with it being a hand-drawn, first-person slice-of-life game about football, or soccer as more than 30% of viewers here on Get Indie Gaming will call it. There's no release date, although this game tells a deeply personal tale of the developers' experiences playing football together in the park when they were kids, with it all set in Ecuador in 2001, around the time the country was about to qualify for the World Cup. This looks so very different, and possibly rather special. At number 8, RFM is a colourful, tactical, grid-based battle game featuring retro-futuristic visuals, all within what appears to be a catchy, energetic original soundtrack. This featured within the game's Spot Play for All stream, with the game using both real-time action and time-freezing strategy elements. Now we know you know how much we like our rogue-inspired games, and we thought RFM was the most interesting new reveal in this genre at this year's E3. Coming next, and when this popped onto our screens, all 3 of us shouted up in union, "Cooking Mama!" Which seems fair, although this one also seems a little bit more fun. Aside from cooking up meals, the game offers players the opportunity to pretend live stream your cooking exploits on a fictitious steaming platform, which of course will have viewers looking to praise or take the mickey out of your creations. Soup Pot we're thinking will be delightfully fun, and we suspect will be a hit with streamers in real life, with it expected out in Q3 later this year. Up next, and at number 6, another game from Devolver Digital. Honest, we're not biased, they just seem to have so many awesome looking games coming out on their roster. Death's Door is the next game from the team who gave us all Titan Souls, and from the look of the trailer it's very, very much our kind of jam. We're thinking the game will rest on the combat, and from the trailer it looks like it will deliver on this and some challenging and punchy boss battles. The comedy aspect might be hit and miss, although we don't have too long to find out if this matches our expectations. Death's Door is coming out July the 20th. At number 5, we have the Playdate pre-order announcement, and while some might argue this wasn't part of the official E3 festival, we feel it very much deserves a place in this rundown. Sure, it's super niche, and the initial asking price of $179 or roughly 126 British pounds is perhaps on the steep side of things. That said, this initial layout will give players access to 24 games, which are all part of what's called the unit's Season 1 launch. All of the games in the first season will be wirelessly delivered to the console over a period of 12 weeks. These games include Crankin's Time Travel Adventure by Katamari Damacy creator Keita Takahashi and Zipper by Co-op designer Bennett Foddy. What's more, the team at Panic also released a little further tease on who else they are working with to help bring content to Playdate, which includes Papers, Please and return of the Obra Dinn developer Lucas Pope, who showed a brief glimpse of a new project he's working on called Mars After Midnight, although it seems unlikely this will be included within the Season 1 content. So over to you guys, what do you make of the Playdate? Will you be picking this up as a pre-order, or perhaps take a wait-and-see approach, or simply say, no thanks, that's not for me? Let us know down in the comments. At number 4, and the second game in the timeline that was E3 2021 to make all of us say wow pretty much at the same time. Behind the Frame is a game that looks straight up anime, and if it's trying to aim at being a tribute to the output of Studio Ghibli, then there's no question on the face of the footage it fully succeeds. As for the game, well, it's a first-person affair, an interactive fiction piece about an aspiring artist. There are puzzling and point-and-click sections in what seems to be an emotionally driven story, and out of all of the narrative-heavy games to show at this year's E3, this was the one we're honestly most excited about. At number 3, we have the debut game from the developers with the rather fine name of Something We Made. While there are more than a few photography-based games doing the promo rounds, there's nothing quite like Toem, which seems like a charming-looking adventure puzzle game. All of this is hand-drawn, it's all in black and white with a setting inspired by the Swedish town where the developers are based. We've had some time with the demo and really enjoyed its art style, and how the demo gives a really strong hint about how the rest of the game will unfold. The demo is publicly available at the time this video goes live, and as usual, you can find a link to it down in the video's description. At number 2, and another of the smaller games that's already featured across much of the main gaming press since it was first shown at the Summer Games Fest kickoff show, we have Planet of Lana. Just look at it. It looks stunning and is described as a cinematic puzzle adventure that follows a young girl and her companion, which looks like a prettier version of Limbo or Inside, and expected to come out at some point in 2022. So we've made it to our number 1, and perhaps this won't be too much of a surprise. Sable was part of the Summer Games Fest kickoff show, with it also being part of the Xbox at ID event, which includes access for PC and Xbox owners to download a playable demo. If you have access to these systems and haven't done so, we really recommend you do as soon as you finish this video. So far in the last day or so, we've spent a good 6 hours zipping about the place on our sand bikes, and literally just sitting back and enjoying the distinctive artwork on our 55-inch TV. As a demo, it really is wonderful, as there are little peeks into the game's backstory and what your character is really up to. While this is no place for more than a few words of early impressions, even though it is just a demo, it's one of the best games we've played all year, and that's quite saying something. Sable hits the shelves on Xbox and Steam this coming September the 23rd. So there we go, those were the big E3 indie game reveals we enjoyed the most from this year's show. But what about you? Feel free to let us know down in the comments, and if you like this video, please click the like button, and now's a great time to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Either way, many thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.